Welcome to the Real CP Show. I'm your host, CP. And today's topic, the Tulsa Black Wall Street. Elder survivors denied reparations. Where was the coalition allies at? Shh. Yes. Shh. See, in this system of supremacists or supremacy, they are the most ultimate mental manipulation force that has ever existed in this country. And one of the primary goals is to make sure continued black pain upon American blacks.
I don't believe in segregation. I believe in slavery.
Let me put that one more time.
I don't believe in segregation. I believe in slavery.
This is not hundreds of years ago that you had personnel like this believing that. This is the 21st century, from 2000 to 2023. This is the extremely infant part of the next millennium. So this was going on in the 20th century. And as in the title, or the last part of the title, where was the coalition allies at on this? So you have however many American blacks overall who know they are. They keep allowing people to put them inside a people of color and minority switchery category. And what they continue to do is continue to keep bypassing American blacks left and right. And you have a few little exceptions within American blacks. Some of them within that mix think they have succeeded. And this is what supremacists are doing to those type of blacks who think they succeed in the system because they got a little change in their pocket. And especially when you go way up there in the higher levels of richness, and supremacists like, boy, girl, I allowed you to get your little Negro self up here. And so supremacists, this is what they do when sometimes you get numbers of American blacks thinking they're a little ahead of themselves. You're laughing at those type of Negroes every day. They say, boy, girl, where's your power? Where's your power, boy, girl? How many examples can be shown in high education, black men, black women, medical fields that have gotten reminded of black pain? How many personnel within certain higher law areas that have got reminded with black pain? However many personnel have been in businesses, technology, their own businesses, etc., have gotten reminded with black pain. And how many American blacks overall, with few exceptions, are still in major denial mode of what's going on around in the racial racism, terrorism that continues to happen each and every day toward the American blacks overall? That is mental sickness. when you sit there and deny what is beyond undeniable and what's irrefutable and what is not illogical but logical within a logical analysis that it continues to keep happening and regards it is beyond reality. And even in this topic of today about the Tulsa, Wall Street, elder survivors denied reparations, that was an atrocious outcome that very few amount of black folks don't even realize the atrociousness and embarrassment and disrespect that is. Just like the affirmative action happened a few weeks ago, when you have the nerve of certain types of Asian person who know where they are, that are latecomers overall into the system of into the American demographics overall, because many are Chuck come lately and Susan come lately, and just like unfortunately there is some internal hatred among certain types of American blacks because that was designed to be that way and created to be that way because of systematic racial hatredness. Numbers of Asian personnel have no comparison of historical pain, cultural pain as American blacks. And I'm just using an example because you have good Hispanics like you have bad. You have good Hispanics and bad ones. You have some decent, okay ones, Native Americans. You have some bad ones. And the list goes on. But the point is, like the affirmative action, you have personnel that have no clue overall what the reality and the racial racism terrorism that American blacks have been through, uh, that they couldn't even handle themselves. Numbers of Asians couldn't even handle it, nor numbers of Hispanics, nor numbers of Native Americans. And they know that. The ones who know I'm talking about, they know. And you have certain ones, certain people, personnel within the predominant culture that have, talking about the ones who do have this, because it's not a small amount, that have this demonicness of hatred among the American blacks. Every time they look around, it's something about they look at American blacks with hatred. You say, what did collective amount of American blacks do? Did collective amount of American blacks for centuries do numbers of personnel within the predominant culture? Did they sit there and show them racial racism, hatred for generations and generations and generations, and then play denial games? Did that happen to numbers of personnel within the predominant culture by numbers of American blacks? Of course not. But you have some or have however numbers of personnel within predominant culture. They'd be like, I had nothing to do with slavery, as if slavery was 1,000 years ago. And what was going on after the enslavement process? Still formal segregation of American blacks in various ways. And so, and just like this Tulsa racial racist riot in 1921 in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in the Greenwood section of Tulsa, the racial racism terrorists by various personnel within the predominant culture was atrocious. And to be denied reparations of the remaining survivors is atrocious. See, you got numbers of personnel within various parts of predominant culture. See, they dare not talk about saying, wait a minute now, when you have, did they have anything to do with the removing of Native Americans from their reservations and other places in the Trail of Tears, which was around 1820s, 1830s time frame? Again, I asked, did the same numbers of personnel with a predominant culture that got something of satanicism within various parts of their mindsets, with few exceptions, when they say, I ain't got nothing to do, I have nothing to do with slavery, as if things stopped, as if there was racial hatred that just stopped all of a sudden after the enslavement process of black folks. And you ask the same numbers of personnel, or you ask the same numbers of personnel, hey, Mr. or Mrs. personnel within the predominant culture, the ones who have this satanic, demonic outlook upon American blacks, did you have anything to do with the removal again of what we call Native Americans from their reservations? in the 1820s, 1830 time frame, 1820s, 1830 time frame of the what we call the Trail of Tears. And they'll say, no, okay, I didn't do that. Of course you didn't. There's not one person that's alive from within the Padang-based culture that was alive 200 years ago. But how many numbers of Native Americans getting reparations? Talking about the white man took our land. The white man took our land. And so you have the quietness of numbers of personnel with the Padang-based culture that don't talk about, oh, our federal money and state money, whatever it is, going to the Native Americans. We had nothing to do with that. Quietness. Where's the number of Asian personnel at that had this little pseudo satanic thought pattern? The ones I'm talking about, not the numbers of the good ones, but numbers of the good ones are apparently not stopping the one that's bad from talking the nonsense about American blacks. Talking about they just get inside these little Harvards and other places, Ivy League schools, because not the merit, because of affirmative action. When you're talking about in this country for centuries, I don't go into all that. There's a very small amount of sections of Asian personnel. So overall amount of Asian personnel wasn't even in the country of America in the 1600s, 1700s, 1800s. The majority of Asian personnel weren't even in the country, let alone many types of Latino backgrounds, Hispanic backgrounds, weren't even in the country of America. But how many continue to keep showing racial hatred toward American blacks and getting some type of direct and informal reparations of some kind? Reparations is not just some type of cash, right? That is infant level thinking. But I don't want to go into all that particular part. So uh, let me sit there and show you something. Just let me show you something relating to this topic that we're talking about 1921, one of the most racial terrorism acts upon any culture in this country in the 20th century. Any culture does not compare with the racial racism terrorism happened to the blacks all over the different parts of the states. But we're talking about particularly Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in the Greenwood section in 1921. No one compares to the racial racism terrorism that happened to American blacks. Let me sit there and let me go ahead and show you something. Give me one moment. Let me sit there and show you something. Mm.
On Memorial Day, May 30th, 1921, a young African American male is walking in downtown Tulsa on Main Street. His name is Dick Rowe. He dropped out of Booker T. Washington High School, where he's a football player, to take a job shining shoes downtown. But he worked in a white patronized shoe shine parlor where there were no toilet facilities for African Americans. So the white owner of the parlor arranged it so his African American employees would walk down Main Street, go to the Drexel building, ride the elevator to the fourth floor where there was a colored bathroom. And the elevator operator in the Drexel building was a young white teenager named Sarah Page.
Sarah Page is manually operating the elevator. Something happens that caused the elevator to jerk or to lurch and roll something to Sarah Page. She began to scream. Dick Rowland, frightened, ran from the elevator. We don't know exactly what happened, but we know something happened. Dick Rowland bumped into her. Dick Rowland stepped on her shoe. She was not expecting him, and she screamed.
And then Dick Rowland is seen running out of the Drexel building.
Sarah Page exited the elevator. He was comforted by a clerk from a local outfit called Renberg's. She told him about being assaulted on the elevator. The clerk, who was comforting her, called the police.
The next day, Tulsa police show up at Dick's home. He's arrested. He's taken downtown to the courthouse, awaiting arraignment.
That could have been the end of the story had it not been for the intervention of the Tulsa Tribune, the daily afternoon newspaper. The Tribune published a story the next day entitled "Nabbed Negro for Attacking Girl in an Elevator." It was a false narrative about an attempted rape in broad daylight in downtown Tulsa.
The story was very incendiary. It used all kinds of buzzwords and menacing images that invoked this notion of a black man assaulting a white woman, which was a euphemism for rape.
The newspaper story is published around 3 o'clock. By 4 o'clock, a small group of white men have began to assemble around and mill around the courthouse. This goes on for several hours. More and more whites showing up, murmuring about lynching Dick Rowland.
First, the crowd is 50, then 100, then 200, then 300, 400, 500 whites gathered outside of the Tulsa County Courthouse, in whose jail Dick Rowland is held in a top floor jail cell. The crowd wants the sheriff to turn over the prisoner because they're going to kill him. They're going to lynch him.
When black people began to hear around 9 o'clock, 9:15, that there is a possible lynching of Dick Rowland, that's when J.B. Stratford, that's when O.W. Gurley, that's when A.J. Smitherman have a meeting at the offices of the Tulsa Star.
As the newspaper editor, A.J. Smitherman knew that this was a dog.
The last part, the American black woman was saying this is like a dog whistle, right? You got numbers of personnel within the Supremacist culture who tried to find ways to lynch this black man who did nothing. And you have numbers of you have numbers of personnel within the Supremacist culture who have the nerve to talk about, oh, no, we don't want that CRT shown in our school district, even though, again, higher level history is not even shown in kindergarten, obviously, up until even 12th grade. CRT stuff not even shown in those schools like that. But there are personnel within the Supremacist culture who do not want any type of American history of reality being shown. But they dare not tell, again, the Native Americans, hey man, stop talking about the white man took your land. I'm a white man. I never took your land. I ain't got anything to do with that. It'd be like, I don't care what you say. I don't care. You still benefit off of what Native Americans have been through. And how many numbers of personnel within Panamanian culture signed their names on the rolls and paid a few dollars and call themselves Native Americans as well. But the thing about it as well, this is so atrocious of the denial, the outcome for reparations for these last remaining survivors of the Tulsa, Oklahoma, Greenwood section, racial racism, terrorism. And the excuses were, oh, well, that was back then. And, we really shouldn't be responsible back then. That is 1921. The Trail of Tears was almost about 100 years before that. The Chinese Exclusion Act was a few decades before the Tulsa Racial Racism Terrorism Act. But you still got numbers of certain parts of Asian personnel, not Afro-Asiatic, because that's a different topic. People act like there's no such thing as Afro-Asians, but that's a different topic. But they're talking about Chinese Exclusion Act. Oh, personnel try to exclude the Chinese personnel. Which people try to exclude Chinese personnel? It wasn't American blacks, because American blacks had no power to do things like that. So who was doing that? And that still was a minute amount of Chinese personnel anyway then. And what other culture prior to none of the Chinese personnel were over in America in any significant numbers past Chinese? No other Asian personnel were like that. Chinese personnel was some of the main personnel that started coming over, especially around the California gold rush around the 1848, 1849 time frame. And even for a while, they still had minute amount of numbers in the Chinese community, and that was exclusive going toward more California area, not the eastern coast, because Asian would be, well, let me phrase stereotypical Asian, right? Where we think Asian personnel are, whatever that's supposed to mean, because it's like Asia is a different continent. But relating to the stereotypical part of what we think Asian is, it will be quicker for have numbers of certain Asian personnel to arrive from the western coast to go to California, right? To go to Washington State, right? To go up into Oregon. It'd be, well, mostly California on that. It'd be easy for them to go there. What was going on when certain numbers of Asian personnel arriving on the eastern coast? The western coast, the predominant base American blacks were enslaved. What about these things personnel call Hispanics? What about them? Which ones you talking about? Right? Which ones? Because the number of Hispanic persons wouldn't even any significant number would have been rolling around in what we call America all over the western coast, northern coast, eastern coast. You get laughed at talking about Hispanics running around in those places. You get laughed at because the main cultures that was there for so long, right, was the American whites, numbers of American blacks, and however numbers of native, what we call native Indians. So you see this disgusting tactic, and you got people that want to be like personnel within the Panama Coast so bad that they even try to talk like personnel within the Panama Coast. It's about the ones who do. They have racism, terrorism. Again, where's all these coalition personnel at? Where's all these mighty numbers of personnel within the Panama culture that will jump up and down? Where are these various types of black and brown, black and Asian coalition? Where's all these people at? Where are these immigration issue immigrant personnel? Where's all these personnel jumping up and down saying, hey, reparations are needed for those Tulsa, Oklahoma, Greenwood racial racism, terrorism survivors? We demand you give them reparations. Where were these people at? Let me ask you this question. Where were these people at? Nowhere. 99.999% nowhere to be found. Right? But see, American blacks keep getting this confusion about, again, oh, well, we're people of color, we're minorities, we're human beings, we call ourselves Americans, and don't even realize they're being used collectively. American blacks are being used.
Peace, perhaps on your side, Maximal scum. Yes, but not on ours. Permit me to inform you that an enemy which appears to be peaceful may in fact be merely biding its time.
Let me play that one last time.
Peace, perhaps on your side, Maximal scum. Yes, but not on ours. Permit me to inform you that an enemy which appears to be peaceful may in fact be merely biding its time.
Mm, mm, mm. And you got numbers of American blacks don't even realize what is going on. This is what I have to say again, because of so many different internal problems, so much type of denial within various parts of the American blacks, because numbers of American blacks have so much black pain going on internally. How many bleached their skins? Or a different color? Well, I don't go there. How many bleached their skin? and do other different things, their facial and hair, to try to look like certain people within certain parts of the Padamese culture. You got certain numbers of other personnel who try to emulate in the conversational purposes, in the tonality of certain ones within the Padamese culture. That is sickening. That is generational black pain. And this is why again I have to say, and also numbers of American blacks, quite a number of American blacks that sit there and have the nerve to say, oh, well, we don't want to talk about no way back then. But they don't sit there and tell numbers of personnel within Padamese culture, stop talking about Abraham Lincoln. That was a long time ago. Abraham Lincoln was before uh, Tulsa, Oklahoma racial racism, terrorism, uh, survivors. That was before that, Abraham Lincoln. But how many personnel within Padamese culture and some others continue to keep writing books about him? And he was no great emancipator. He did not free all the slaves. But you still got people parakeeting that nonsense talking about he freed the slaves. They still have, however, documentaries about him still coming up, well, they continue to keep happening. Documentaries about him, books, articles talk about him, right? But no one tells the personnel within Padamese culture and other personnel, hey man, stop talking about him. Nope. You don't hear personnel telling what we call Native Americans again, stop talking about the white man took our land. Well, the Trail of Tears was again 1820s, 1830 time frame, which would have been before Abraham Lincoln. Mm-hmm. And the Civil War. Right? You heard personnel saying, hey man, let's start talking about the American Revolutionary War and we declare our independence and stuff like that from these British personnel trying to tell us what to do, right? Taxation without representation is bad. We want to form our own United States, right, of America. We declare, right, that we are the United States of America, 1776. But you hear personnel saying, hey, let's stop talking about that. We need to get on past that. But something about American blacks in historical Paris history, a lot of racial racism, terrorist history, are told, hey, forget about the past. Get over it. You got to be a sick person inside for numbers of American blacks to continue to keep believing that. Nobody else will allow that to happen. I don't want to go into all that, but let me show you something real fast. What does that say? Stop Asian hate. Stop Asian hate. Right? Now, I don't want to be playing left and right. That's not the topic for the day. Right? This is 21st century stuff. But no one tells numbers of Asian personnel, stop talking about that. When you talking about this, these people hating Asians. What are you talking about? Which Asians? How long they been hated? What are you talking about? The number one person in this country based upon race and color is not Asians. It's not white, right? It's not Native Americans. It's not from racial ethnic backgrounds. It's not white. It's not Asians. It's not Hispanics. It's not even the belief systems. The number one personnel that has most hatred put upon them for a long time. Hate crime stats shows American black. Not known as a personnel from Africa. Not known as a personnel from Caribbean. The numbers are small. And it's ridiculous how those American blacks continue to keep allowing people to play these silly games. And this is why I keep saying the American blacks only have half a generation to one generation left before the overall complete destruction of the American black culture. So ridiculous, man, these games that's being allowed by numbers of American blacks to be played upon American blacks continuously overall. This colored waiting room sign was going on after 1921. This is still going on. This is still happening before many other cultures again even arrive in the United States of America. See, you never compare colored, well, Native American waiting rooms. There is no comparison of obviously white waiting room. That is beyond silly to say that, right? Mm, mm, mm. Let me play that again. Hold on, give me a second. Give me a second here. 1 second here. I want to play that again. I want to play that again. There was no Native American waiting room like this. There was no white waiting room like this. There's no border breaking illegal immigration waiting room like this. There's no immigrant waiting room like this. There's no Asian waiting room like this. Of no comparison. Nobody had this going on like the American blacks. And then you had, remember, the black American black folks continue to allow people to call them colored. And even American black folks use the word colored. That's sickening. And to use the word Hebrew color. This is what various personnel within Padama's culture, with few exceptions. This is what quite a number of other different personnel from no Pacific cultures and backgrounds, various parts of the terms, lifestyle categories, border breaking, illegal immigration personnel, et cetera, are sitting there laughing at American blacks every day. Because I'm with American blacks walking around just lost. Don't even realize what let me show you another video.
As word spread, angry whites were determined that they were going to take matters into their own hands.
A large crowd of white residents gathered at the courthouse. They demanded Dick Rowland be lynched. How did the black community respond to that demand to lynch this young man?
They were willing to risk their lives. They knew that they would be risking their lives to help defend Dick Rowland. And thousands of whites gathered in front of the courthouse. A white man approached a black man with a gun. He said, "What are you going to do with that gun?" He said, "I'm going to use it if I have to."
The two men argued. There was a struggle over the gun. It fired. The white resident was shot. All hell broke loose.
Blacks retreated to the Greenwood district where they set up a barrier at the railroad tracks and were able for a short time to keep whites from invading their community. But because they were so outnumbered and outgunned, whites eventually broke through the railroad tracks and invaded what was home to Black Wall Street, the Greenwood district.
This was the result. 35.
It's talking about 35 to 40 city blocks were destroyed. Look at that picture. Look at that picture. Look at that picture. Nobody comes close to that. Nobody. And then to add the proverbial insult to injury, they had planes flying by racial racism terrorists, personnel from within the Padama's culture, that were dropped in boom boom bombs upon the residents. Let's say this again. There were reports of personnel, would have been obviously personnel within various parts of Padama's culture, that were dropping bombs on the residents. You won't ever hear any kind of stories like this talking about how numbers of whites were dropping bombs on personnel, reservation, and trail of tears because there was no such thing as that. You won't hear nobody talking about they were dropping bombs, personnel within the Panamese culture, that they were dropping bombs on numbers of Chinese personnel in the mid to late 1800s. You won't hear nobody's talking about how, oh, they were dropping bombs on enclaves or numbers of Hispanic personnel 100 something years ago and Latinos 100 something years ago because the numbers would have been so small anyway. You don't hear nobody talking about how they were dropping bombs because of hatred upon immigration groups, right? Which 100 years ago, you're talking about they'd have been a minute amount of people. You don't hear nobody talking about how they were dropping bombs upon numbers of even African personnel whose numbers are extremely significant in this country. But there are some good ones and bad ones, and the bad ones have the nerve to sit there and run over here as fast as possible from various African countries because they are nothing in their own country. Because you speak what, how many different languages? So the hell what? You got people that look just like the next part like them, speak just as many languages as them. So the hell what? And if that person's all that, why can't they sit there and make Africa great? Right? But they run their little tails as fast as the ones I'm talking about run their tails as fast as possible on that boat and how many come across the border illegally, which is a different topic than what most people don't want to talk about. Yes, there's numbers of African people come across that border illegally. But most people want to talk about that, just like numbers of Chinese personnel come across their personnel illegally. Numbers of Japanese personnel come across illegally. How many other numbers of Asian personnel come across the border illegally? But you got personnel that don't want to talk about that. But you got personnel want to act like, oh, American blacks are lazy. What the nerve? And again, look at this picture. No other culture and background, ethnicities, border break, illegal immigration status, immigrant status, no Native American status, et cetera, et cetera. Nobody had this happen to them like that. And this is all around 100 some years ago, which is only 4 generations ago. What an insult. So you're talking about around May of 1930, May of uh, May 30th of 2000, May 30th of 1921. And you heard the story about the Dick Rowland, who couldn't even use the same restroom where he was working at. He had to go however down the street to go to another building that they were had a per se wink wink colored bathroom. This is after the Chinese Exclusion Act. This is after the Civil War. This was after the American Revolutionary War. This is after the Civil War. This is after the Spanish American War in the late 1800s. I mean, late 1890s, 1880s, 1890s, Spanish American War. This is after World War One, around 1914, around 1917. This is after those wars. You're talking about black veteran. Oh, excuse me. Let me go into something for a second. In 1921, the Greenwood section of Tulsa contained, quite a number of black-owned businesses, including dozens of grocery stores, dozens of restaurants, various hotels, many numbers of black professionals, including physicians and surgeons. Yes, what was that affirmative action that they got? Was that affirmative action that those doctors and those physicians and surgeons did they get affirmative action, which wasn't around in 1921? Before many other agents even existed, were even thought of in 1921? They have many type of craft personnel, various types of tailors, building contractors, painters, shoemakers, various barbers, cleaning shops, banks, hotels. They're their own thing, but people keep trying to tell black folks, "Oh, they're lazy." And numbers of American blacks that sit there and accept that, like they're infants. And you have quite a numbers of personnel within predominant culture. This is why they so adamantly about, oh, it's not TCRT. It's gonna make our little white kids feel uncomfortable. So the hell what? What are you talking about? So it's okay to hide history like this. That was a long time ago. It's okay to do that, right? Hide history. And for some other culture, you'll listen to this. Yes, I know many of you who may be listening to this, be it 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, however it go, 6 months from now, 5 months from now, however other people never even heard this kind of stuff. Mm, mm, mm. Let me play one last thing. This is ridiculous. This is so ridiculous.
And a judge dismissed the lawsuit seeking compensation for the last three survivors of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre. The survivors were suing the city of Tulsa and other entities, saying those groups were responsible for the massacre that caused a continued.
Let me show that again.
And a judge dismissed the lawsuit seeking compensation.
Look at this. This is a veteran. This general right here is about 100 something years old, 100, 102, whatever it is, something like that. 102, 103 years old now, 100, 102, something like that. This guy this American black man was a veteran. This guy was a veteran. He also was a World War II veteran. And what that shows, what that tells people, the people who know what's going on, that this guy fought for his country, World War II, etc. World War II was 1941, 1945. World War I is around 1914, 1917. This elder American black, and that I salute you, this living history right now, for however long he has left, serve with distinction. I think he was born in 1921, I think, as well. So while he was still a young man, he stood there and decided to join the service and serve his country. And remember, excuse me, for the people who don't know, he was inside of a segregated black unit. World War I, World War II was still segregated. World War II again is between 1941 and 1945. That's less than 100 years ago. Let me say that again. World War II is between 1941 and 1945. That was less than 100 years ago. This was still less before many numbers of Asian personnel even arrived within this country. This is before quite a number of Hispanic personnel arrived in this country in different places. This is before border breaking illegal immigration personnel even started coming and laughing and getting benefits off of black pain. This is before immigration personnel who's sitting there laughing at American blacks running from their own countries as well, getting sitting there free housing, getting free assistance, food assistance like other personnel are doing. The nerve of disrespect from quite a number of people within Padam-based culture. Never respect these other different cultures, the ones who know they are. And you got a person talking about, oh, black folks, American black folks were anti-military. Black folks serve with distinct bravery of no comparison. The American blacks have been in the service more than any other background of people demographically besides the numbers of whites. So you can go to hell with that game. But those American blacks continue to keep allowing people to just blatantly disregard American black history. You got numbers of American blacks that are numbers of ones that are gullible, numbers of ones that have a mental sickness, self-confidence issues. And again, keep putting numbers of American blacks and people of color in minority category. And affirmative action, when the number one personnel overall in this country who continues to keep benefiting more than anybody else is numbers of women within the predominant culture. Who gets a double dip and saying and getting minority-based programs, minority-based business programs, however different programs for work, etc. Oh, I was oppressed. By who? Right? And next to them would be obviously numbers of personnel within the predominant culture who continue, or let me phrase that, who were also some of the progenitors of getting affirmative action, helping them out, especially after World War II, especially around that time frame when it was helping them out getting housing, getting businesses, etc. And people don't tell them, hey man, you always got your hand out. People running from various parts of Europe run over as fast as possible, getting free land and stuff like that. But American blacks are lazy, right?
For the last three survivors of the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre.
Look at this. No other culture experiences this. A town of almost 40 blocks. There are many reservations wouldn't even come close to this. And remember, many reservations wouldn't have dozens of grocery stores, dozens of restaurants, dozens of hotels, many type of Native American professionals, various types of Native American physicians, various types of Native American surgeons, various types of real estate loan and insurance agent Native Americans. There was no such thing like that. And you got people that want to say, oh man, Native Americans, stop talking about the white man took our land. But getting reparations. But how many get reparations? How many get reparations? How many people get reparations? But you hear a person there with a Panamanian culture saying, I had nothing to do again with the Trail of Tears that was almost 200 years ago. I ain't got anything to do with that, but still federal reparations, state reparations still going toward various types of Native Americans. And there are ones who know I'm talking about, right? The ones who know they ain't Native Americans put their name on these rolls and call themselves $5 Indians and whatever else. They know who they are. And ones who know they milking the system, I don't want to go on all that. No, Native Americans who know they milk on the system, right? Weren't even alive 20 years ago. Many weren't even alive 100 years ago. When Tulsa racial riot, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Greenwood section of Tulsa, Oklahoma, May 30th, 1921, wasn't even alive. But how many get the benefit of black pain? And right? And utilize minority and there are people of color, continue getting all kinds of reparations.
The survivors were suing the city of Tulsa and other entities, saying those groups were responsible for the massacre that caused a continued.
Look at this. Look at those beautiful, handsome elders, over 100 years old. And I was reading some of the nerve, and I'm pretty sure there had to be certain personnel within the Padamese culture and some other personnel. The gentleman in the middle, I think he's around about 100 years old in 1921. So either he was in his mama's stomach and his mama was still being a survivor, which means he's a survivor because he was in his mama's stomach, or he was just being born in 1921, which still he's a survivor. Do you not know? For people who are, for the person who might not know, right? In 1921, again, I'm gonna go there. These three beautiful and handsome uh, last remaining survivors just wanted to get historical restitution, and they were denied. What an insult. Mm. Mm. Give me 1 second. Let me try that again. It's so ridiculous. The insulting how they done to those American blacks. It messed up quite a number of American blacks in their mindset to deny history while others can talk about history. That is pretty bad.
And a judge dismissed the lawsuit seeking compensation for the last three survivors of the 1921 Tulsa race massacre. The survivors were suing the city of Tulsa and other entities, saying those groups were responsible for the massacre that caused a continued
That basically caused the continuously black painness, basically. What an insult to get denied reparations that they earned. That they earned. And there was what I was saying earlier that however numbers of personnel with the Predominant culture and some other ones who have the nerve to play this little game. I was reading something, they was talking about the gentleman, the elder American black gentleman. Well, I don't know if he was born then and how can he be a survivor? He probably wasn't even born. He was born around 1921. So be he was in his mama's stomach or he was an infant, so the hell what? He was still a survivor. Would they sit there and tell again various personnel from various Native Americans, hey man, y'all weren't alive at all 200 years ago in the Trail of Tears, 1820, 1830. Y'all weren't alive at all. Would they tell them that? Of course not. Would they tell them the progenitors of make a person who know they are that want to make sure you're told, hey, about a Holocaust, even though the African Holocaust predates that, way beyond that, even though the main personnel who have the most Holocaust is from Africa and the American Black Holocaust that predates what the A Holocaust that happened in Germany and surrounding areas. But American blacks are so scared overall to sit there and checkmate that. They don't talk about how Hitler did not like American blacks as well. But the game is ridiculous. But the point is that my question I would ask that whoever person within Padme's culture, man or woman, if that guy wasn't even born yet or he was an infant, so the hell what? I just gave you some examples that they'll get quiet on. What about the other ones? They were older than this guy, so they would have been alive. How about that? What about some child that was just over there in the Holocaust and some of the internment camps in Germany and other places? What about ones that weren't even born yet, or in their mama's stomach, or they was 1 or 2 years old, 3 or 4 years old? What about them? Would you say, hey, y'all should get no reparations either, directly or indirectly? I don't think so. And the Tulsa Racial Racism Terrorism uh, Act, the Racial Racism Terrorism Massacre toward the American blacks in Tulsa, Greenwood, Oklahoma, that predates World War II. American blacks need to wake up. Most of them will not. This is why, again, I say the American blacks overall have half a generation to 1 generation left for the overall complete destruction of the American black culture. Thank you for tuning in to the Real CP Show.